Hi everyone, I'm Matt Corsaro from the Intelligent Robot Lab at Brown University, and today I'll be presenting our work on learning to detect multimodal grasps for dexterous grasping in dense clutter. Grasping is one of the most important skills for an intelligent robot. Simple pick-and-place tasks are found throughout industrial and residential environments, and grasping is a prerequisite skill for manipulation tasks, such as opening doors or using tools. Humans can execute different types of grasps. For instance, to stably pick a heavy dumbbell, a human would execute a power grasp by supporting the dumbbell with their palm and wrapping their fingers around the handle. To grasp and use a pencil, a human would execute a precision grasp by holding the pencil between their fingertips. Some robots are also capable of executing different types of grasps. For instance, the Robotique 3-finger adaptive gripper can stably grasp long objects with a wide power grasp, or pick up small objects with a pincher grasp. Intelligent general robots should be capable of deciding which grasp type is best suited to the problem they're presented with. Some existing works leverage grasp type to improve grasp success rate in picking tasks. However, these works either introduce human bias in their training sets, set fingertip placement for fully actuated grippers, evaluate separate classifiers for each grasp type, or rely on a grasp database. None of these existing works are evaluated in dense clutter. We propose a system that predicts an optimal grasp pose and grasp type. The system follows the common two-step framework where a set of grasp candidates is first proposed, then evaluated. In our evaluation step, the probabilities that each of n grasp types would succeed at a given pose are predicted. We train our system with real visual input and labels generated in simulation, eliminating the need for data generation with a real robot. Our system is evaluated on a real robot that clears a pile of densely cluttered objects from a tabletop. In the first stage of our system, a set of possible grasp candidates is proposed using a heuristic. This function is provided with a point cloud containing unsegmented graspable objects. To generate each candidate pose, a point to use as the grasp centroid is sampled from the cloud. The approach direction of the gripper is set anti-parallel to the estimated point normal at the centroid, while the gripper closing direction is set based on the estimated curvature. Additional closing directions can be sampled by rotating the gripper about the approach direction. The algorithm returns a set of poses in SE3. In the second stage of our system, each of the proposed candidates is evaluated. Our neural network is trained to predict the probabilities that a grasp of each type would succeed at a provided grasp pose. The input to this network is a point cloud centered and aligned with a grasp pose frame. The head of our network consists of 4 point conv layers. Point conv is a derivative of the point net network architecture. Both take point clouds as input directly. The series of fully connected layers after the point conv layers output n logit pairs, 1 pair for each grasp type. The softmax of the second logit in each pair corresponds to the probability that the corresponding grasp type would succeed at the given pose. After evaluating all the generated candidates, the grasp pose and type with the highest probability of success would be selected for execution. The network is trained to perform joint binary classification, where the probabilities of n independent binary variables being true are predicted from a single input. This is done with our summed cross-entropy loss function. This function sums the individual type-specific cross-entropy loss functions for each of the n independent grasp type classifiers. Here, YIC is 1 when C is the correct label for grasp type I, for a given example, and 0 otherwise. Z is a matrix containing the network output fed through n independent softmax functions. To train the network for a specific gripper, the number of grasp types that the gripper is capable of must first be determined. The discrete set of grasp types a gripper is possible of executing depend on many parameters, including the number, type, and positions of fingers and actuators. For instance, the Robotique 3-finger adaptive gripper is capable of executing 5 main types of grasps. Because the gripper is under-actuated, its fingers wrap around objects to form a stable power grasp if the palm is close to an object surface, while precision grasps are formed when the palm is farther from an object and the distal links make contact first. The gripper is also capable of 3 discrete operating modes. 2 fingers are spread apart in wide mode to grasp long objects, parallel to grasp smaller objects, and brought together to grasp small objects precisely and mimic a parallel jaw gripper. As power grasps are not possible in parallel jaw mode, a total of 5 grasp types are available with these 2 parameters. Now that we've defined the 5 grasp types our gripper is capable of, we can generate a data set with which to train our neural network. As a large amount of label training data is required, we generate labels in simulation. We simulate the Robotique gripper and its 5 grasp types in Drake. Our 20 graspable objects come from the Big Bird object set, which contains partial point clouds and object models of real household objects. For each object, our grasp pose generation algorithm samples a set of possible grasp poses from the point clouds. Each of the 5 grasp types is then attempted on the corresponding object model at each grasp pose. If a grasp of each type is collision-free, the example is added to our dataset along with the point cloud cropped at a grasp pose. The generated dataset contains over 36,000 grasp attempts. After training our network with the simulated dataset, we evaluate the network's performance on a held-out validation set. We compare our architecture, combined, to an inefficient baseline that provides an upper bound on performance, the separate architecture. In the separate architecture, each grasp type classifier is modeled as an individual neural network, and the ensemble of networks contain 5 times as many learnable parameters as our architecture. 2 sets of trials are run. In one, the datasets are split into training and validation sets at random. In the more difficult scenario, the dataset is split by object, ensuring all examples in the validation set come from a set of objects distinct from the training set. Our results show that the average classification accuracy of our system is at most 3% lower than the baseline, while maintaining high precision in F1 scores and reducing the size of the network by 5 times. To evaluate the performance of our entire system and the utility of multiple grasp types, we perform experiments with a real robot and dense clutter. In each trial, 10 small and medium objects are selected at random from a set of 23, then placed in a box, which is shaken and dumped into a pile on the table. Then 3 large objects are selected from a set of 6 and placed upright around the clutter pile. This creates a challenging scenario where multiple types of grasp would be necessary to successfully clear the scene. The robot attempts to pick all objects from the pile and drop them in a box. It stops upon clearing all objects. When the same type of failure occurs on the same object with the same grasp type 3 times in a row, or when the candidate proposal algorithm fails to generate collision-free grasps 3 times in a row. Grasp success rate and overall object removal rate are measured throughout these trials. Our system, capable of executing 5 types of grasps, is compared against 2 baselines that represent related work. One is a system capable of 2 types of grasp, basic and basic precision. The other is capable of 1 grasp type, the parallel jaw pincher grasp. These baseline networks use the same architecture and training dataset, but output fewer logit pairs. Here we show an example of our 5-type system. The robot first moves to 2 fixed poses to capture point clouds of the scene with the depth sensor mounted on its wrist. Grasp candidates are generated using the resulting combined point cloud. These candidates are evaluated using the neural network trained with the labels generated in simulation. The candidate and grasp type corresponding to the highest predicted probability is executed by the robot. Here, the system fails to grasp the heavy shampoo bottle with a basic precision grasp. It fails again with a wide precision grasp. On the 3rd attempt, it stably grasps the bottle with a basic power grasp. The system fails to generate collision-free grasp poses on the Lego brick because it's too close to the table. Overall, 11 of 13 grasp attempts were successful and 12 of 13 objects were cleared from the table. Next, a trial with the one-type system is shown. The system can only execute pincher grasps. The system successfully picks the first 3 objects it attempts to grasp, but it then struggles to stably grasp and successfully lift the heavy shampoo bottle. Since 3 attempts fail in a row, the trial ends prematurely, with 3 of 6 grasps being successful and 3 of 13 objects cleared from the scene. The overall results from these experiments are shown here. Each system is tasked with clearing the same 10 subsets of objects from the table. Our 5-type system achieves an object removal rate 8.5% higher than the highest performing baseline. Though even this system struggled to grasp the shampoo bottle in some trials, it outperformed the baselines. The grasp success rate of the 5-type system was 1.7% lower than that of the 1-type system. The main reason for this is that the 1-type system cannot execute wide grasps, which are more prone to failure on clusters of small objects. The system have no notion of object boundaries since no segmentation is performed, and the system evaluates complete point clouds of the scene. The 2-type system often failed to grasp small objects because it did not have access to the pincher grasp. It also became stuck in local minima in several trials after repeatedly failing with similar grasp attempts. In conclusion, we've presented a system capable of generating and evaluating multiple types of grasps. Simulated labels are used to train the system, and real robot experiments are executed to evaluate it. We've shown that our system, provided with 5 types of grasps, achieves a higher object removal rate than the baseline ablations that use fewer types of grasps. Please pause the video here to see our references. Thank you for your attention. I look forward to answering your questions during the interactive session.